Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. So, you guys, I was just reading the comments and having my coffee, which I love to do in the morning, and just some really good comments, great statements, questions, observations. And so one came up, and the question was, how about relationships in these times? Relationships with ascension going on. What does that look like? That's a great question. Because I'll share with you guys my experience, and that is that people are not going to progress at the same level, at the same pace. It's just not going to happen. And so often we're going to find that our relationships, they're going to hit some tough areas. It's going to be a bumpy road at times. Yet, when we're progressing on our path, we will naturally kind of become more tolerant, less judgmental, just happier, really, in general, savoring every moment and really enjoying the day, enjoying all the little things in life that are so beautiful and so special. That's part of this path. As we go forward and we recognize the bigger picture, you know, again, we are spiritual beings having a 3D experience. Yes, we are in this world, this matrix, and yet we do have a lifeline out of this matrix. The lifeline out of this matrix is the most important thing on our journey in so many ways, because this matrix can totally trap us and it can pull us down into a lower vibration than when we first came in here. So many of us are what we would call star seeds and light workers. And so, we are here trying to help illuminate others and wake others up to exactly what's going on in this control grid. And what's going on is just like the previous video yesterday showed. There are entities that will feed off of negative energies, and that's what they've done. And it doesn't matter if you change out leaders. Do you ever wonder why nothing changes? It doesn't matter whether it's a new leader, a new president, a new Congress. Doesn't matter if it's a new emperor. Let's look back through history. Unfortunately, what happens is that this world tends to corrupt. And yet we see the beauty in this world all around us. The natural world itself is so beautiful and so full of wonder and splendor, and so many of God's prime creator source's creatures are carrying on in this beautiful, blissful ignorance to what's going on around us in this planet. And that does lend to them a sense of peace. They're in their own little matrix. And they're, in many cases, as long as they don't, get poisoned by all the things that man is doing, they're just carrying on. The birds, the bees. Unfortunately, the acts that man has done on this planet have most definitely impacted it in a very, very negative way. And there again, it brings me back to truly who is really controlling things. Because it's not somebody that is native to here. There is no way that it is any being that is native to this particular reality. It is no being that has any respect for the divine feminine or Mother Nature in all her manifestation. It's quite obvious that the beings that are controlling this reality are, in fact, very, very negative entities that simply want to control through fear, power, hatred, division, These beings are not even the leaders that we see on this planet. They are something totally different. And so we've called this a spiritual war. And if spiritual is multidimensional, then it most definitely is. And we tend to think of the spiritual as something that is of a finer existence, truer to source, heading towards source. A clearer picture of what reality really is on the higher dimensions. So what's going on here is most definitely a battle of control. It's a battle for your mind. It's a battle for your soul. And it's a battle for your heart as well. And yes, you could inherit all the riches of this world, but what would it truly gain you? It would gain you nothing. Absolutely nothing. So getting back to relationships, we are all going through this spiritual battle. We are all progressing at different rates of speed. We are all realizing things at different times. Some of us way ahead of other ones, and perhaps even lifetimes, many, many, many multiple lifetimes ahead. Some are so trapped in the thought and religious control matrix, and so convinced they have to convince others, without realizing that they are spreading the disease of these entities that we may choose to call things like demons, or archons, perhaps a little bit more precisely. These archons, we could view them as almost the architects of this matrix, the ones that actually built the program that we are running in right now and living in right now. Many of us have come here for the sole purpose of helping to dissolve the illusion of this matrix and reignite the true spark that the Creator has set in all of us. For we are all children of the divine, and we have that divine spark within us. Unfortunately, it has been perverted in many and twisted, and many have succumbed to the illusion that's all around us. The only way to gain true knowledge is by going within. We could read all day long, every day, for the rest of our lives, and if it doesn't soak in, if the situation, the reality of the situation that we find ourselves in, doesn't truly sink in, it will all be for naught. Truly, we must still the mind. We must go deep. This is the only path out. The only path out of this matrix is by going deeper within yourself. You'll never discover intellectually that which surrounds you and keeps you trapped in the lower vibrations. It must be a realization that comes from within. Sure, sparks of knowledge can definitely trigger us. And then when we meditate on them, we ponder on them, inspiration can come. If we could raise our vibrations up so that we could start to receive messages from Source directly, then we could start to know and understand the bigger picture. So you may find, and you probably will find, that there's an awful lot of relationships that are going to change. You're simply not going to be on the same playing field anymore. You're not going to see things the same way, and you might not even be able to tolerate each other's energy anymore, because the one that is on the higher path and vibrating at the higher frequency perhaps will be shining so much light on the one behind, the one that's trailing, that it'll be uncomfortable for the one that's trailing. And then the one on the higher path will not be able to feel comfortable and be around energies that are lower. And I have experienced this in my life too. And unfortunately found that someone that I was close to was so controlled by the darker energies that we could only call demonic, that it was absolutely shocking, and just shocking and completely scary. And these energies will work to control the partner they can control. So you rising up and being a threat to escape the matrix and a threat to show others how to escape the matrix and bring the reality to them, you're a big threat. A big threat. They're going to notice that, and these dark forces are going to do their best to pull you in. And of course, one of the best ways they can do it, one of the best tools they can do, is to utilize those closest to you, those that are susceptible, perhaps through drug use. Prescription drugs are most definitely one of the biggest problems. If we want to talk about gateway drugs, prescription drugs are some of the biggest gateway drugs. And they will lower your vibration. They will lower your reality. Lower where you are at, so that you can be controlled. You can be manipulated. And you can be used as a tool, as a pawn for them. They are looking down on the chessboard. They're not really on the chessboard themselves. This whole stage that we see, they're manipulating the stage. They're looking at the stage. And they're controlling the leaders on the stage. But they're not the leaders themselves. So even when we're talking about certain family names, that's really not the source of power. The power comes from a different dimension. And it's a dimension that's even higher than what we would call even the demonic forces. As we had talked about, we're heading into or we might even already be in the astral realms in some ways. And that is where we are when we sleep. If your dreams are troubled and full of nightmares and darkness, you will know that you are either being attacked by some of these beings, or you still have a lot to work through as well on your own. We must hold light. We must hold emotions and feelings of positivity. Find the delight in every single day. And find the good in all things. It's going to mean sometimes that we have to just push things aside. And some of those times it's going to be relationships that just don't work. Because every soul that leaves this matrix, this construct that we are in, is a huge victory. A huge victory for the forces of love and light and the one true creator. And it's a huge loss for the forces of control, greed, selfishness, and hate. So it's imperative that we do our best to lift everyone up that we can, but there will be some that will not be lifted up, that will stay in the matrix, choose to stay in their small mindset, and will do their best to pull us into their world of fear. Because it is through fear that all the other negative emotions come, and that is how they control us. So my friends, as always, like, share, subscribe. I want to thank you for your support in all ways. Help us to spread this knowledge, wake as many up as we can. Let's break through this reality and create a positive one. As always, my friends, God bless and namaste.